So it seems like inflation just will not let up here in Brandon's America. Um, every fucking day, it seems like we're reaching a new high. Gas is through the roof, rent is through the roof, food is in the roof, through the roof, in the roof. It's well past it wherever it's at. Um, and here in Wyoming, I'm a little less affected by it because the rent here is generally pretty reasonable. Um, and so are the wages, even though we don't have a great minimum wage here, a lot of the work around here pays decently because the state has a bleeding population. But still, at the end of the day, I'm making 12 bucks an hour. I'm gonna have to get another job soon enough. And the gig economy seems to be the only other way, and that's with a bike, not with a vehicle like this, because you're going to be losing on gas. Um, seems to be the only other way to supplement the rest. Um, it's a tough situation to be in. It seems like um, the economy wasn't in great shape beforehand. Like, back in 2019, we had all of these record numbers coming out saying that um, we're in better shape than we've ever been. People are doing wonderful. Social mobility is doing wonderful. When in reality, most people were just getting by doing these shitty gig economy jobs in between their regular minimum wage jobs, still having to live with other people in order to make it on rent. It was tough. It was a tough situation to be in for most people. And yet, we were touting these numbers all the time. Like, things are doing great, even though student debt was through the roof and medical debt was through the roof. Um, and now, inflation is at what, 8.6% or something insane like that. Gas is $5 a gallon. If you're living out of an RV, that's like $900 to fill it up. I go to the store and it's $7 for a pound of strawberries. A pound. $7. At this point, it's cheaper to eat from fucking McDonald's than it is to eat food from the store. Um, it's a mess. This economy is in shambles, and I can't even get steel cased ammo anymore for my AR-15 because of the sanctions on Russia, which has only increased the inflation back at home. Because a great amount of the grain and the oil and gas supplied to the world comes from that nation, which, even though we don't get that much fertilizer as well, even though we don't get that much from that country, here in America, it affects a lot of the other economies in the world that we do rely on, which has a ripple effect on a macro scale. This all is going to affect us. And if you look at what's going on in China, the supply chains still haven't recovered. A lot of the ports haven't been reopened. A lot of the productivity that was there in China pre-COVID hasn't recovered because they're still doing these hard lockdowns because they have a fucking terrible vaccine. And if we just made the vaccine we have here uh, at publicly available open source, they could just make our fucking vaccine, and then they could get back to normal capacity. But instead, they're using this fucking shanky 40% effective vaccine, which like only wanes over time as new variants seem to emerge. And the only way they can deal with it uh, is to lock everything down still, like 2 years after, like 3 years after the outbreak. Um, it's nuts. This world has gone completely nuts. And I look at what the bipartisan consensus is in the government, which is to say, oh, let's sanction Russia more, give more weapons to Ukraine on our taxpayer money, even as inflation continues to go up, even as people are hurting right now economically, and they could use some of that money to come back down to them. We're putting all of it into the Ukraine and then sanctioning the hell out of Russia, which is only worsening our economy here back at home. I don't give a shit about Ukraine. I don't live anywhere near Ukraine. Ukraine is all the way on the other side of the world. Why should I care about Ukraine? When I'm here making $12 an hour, struggling to be able to pay for basic things as prices continue to go up. I don't give a shit. Just leave it alone. Leave all of these countries alone. We are not the world's police. We are not the arbiters of morality throughout the world. Just plain get out of these countries. I am sick and tired of my taxpayer money going at the end of the day to fund the existence of these other countries. Leave these regions to themselves. Let them sort it out themselves. There's long-standing cultural and economic issues between these nations that we as Americans can't even begin to understand. And I'm not going to pretend I understand it. I'm not going to sit here and take a moral stance like I know something about these places in the world, because I don't. And frankly, I don't fucking care. I just want to be able to, at the end of the day, put bread on the table. And I'd be able to do that if the government was doing something for me instead of doing something for people I don't even know in the Ukraine. Like, this fucking baby formula shortage we have going on in this country, you got people in the administration, which is supposedly supposed to be like egalitarian, you know, we're going to do things for the poor, that's what they promised. You got people in that administration saying, we don't want to use the government to make more baby formula, when literal kids are starving because of this shortage. And even more of them are starving because of this sky-high inflation that continues to raise the cost of food and raise the cost of gas in a country that's has all of its infrastructure dependent on cars, so you kind of have to drive to get to a lot of places. Which was a failure in its own right, that we could also change if we didn't spend so much of our taxpayer money overseas funding these wars, these endless wars in the Ukraine or in the Middle East or wherever, paying out the ass to fucking fund the militaries in Estonia and Germany and France, who don't even pay what they owe into NATO a lot of the time. They don't even pay what they owe. And yet they're still on the government's dole. Like, just slash it in half. Slash it in fucking half, and then give some of that money to us, some of us who are struggling. We could afford it. We could afford to pay for so many of these basic things that we need, that we have to fucking work 3 jobs and do the gig economy and never sleep, never get to spend time with our families. If the access to steel-cased ammo is restricted, the fucking baby formula is restricted. Just get rid of all of it. Just get rid of all of this fucking debt that we're accruing, paying for these guys, this inflation that's going up because we're paying for these guys, and put America first. Just put America first. You know, I may not be suicidal myself, but you see the statistics. As inflation goes up, suicides go up because people are hurting and they can't afford to put bread on the table. They can't afford to drive to work every day, to drive to one of the jobs they have every day, that they're already overworked and stressed because they don't have any benefits, because they were struggling to make ends meet before all of this. And those people look at this economy and the way things are now, and they think, I'm just going to fucking kill myself. I'm just done. I'm checked out. This is too much for me. I don't want to deal with it anymore. I just want the big sleep, not to have to worry. You see crime going up as well. The more inflation seems to go up because people are struggling to make ends meet. They need a way out. They need a way to put bread on the table. And for those people, it's doing crime. It's doing crime. Because we're not putting America first, we're going to see more and more of this. It's going to get worse before it gets better. And I'm just sick of it. I'm sick of having to go into work every single day and know that so much of the taxes that they take out of my check aren't going back to me. They're not going back to, it, beautiful roads that I could be driving on instead of these fucking potholes. They're not going to public transit I could be riding on instead of having to pay $150 at the pump just to fill up. They're going to be going to more weapons for Ukraine, a country I've never even been to, don't care to go to, and don't know anything about. Do you know anything about Ukraine? Why do you care about Ukraine? Honestly, why? Because to me, it seems like a lot of the people who claim to care about it are just performatively outraged. They take a moral stand because it's a sign of who they are. It's a virtue signal. I'm fucking sick of it. I just want to be able to come home from work at the end of the day and then feel like whatever modest means I'm living on, making an honest living, is going to something. It's going to my stability, my longevity as a person. But you're not going to be able to feel like you have any stability when all of these taxes from the IRS are going to things that don't benefit you, when you're struggling to make ends meet, when you have to work your ass off all day and all night just to be able to pay for the basic necessities, and even then you still have to cut costs. You still have to not go to the doctor. You still have to not eat as much as you'd like, not have as healthy choices as you'd like. You still have to live with other people because rent is so much that you can't afford to live by yourself. We are punishing especially the single people in this country, the people who don't want roommates or don't want a significant other. How the fuck are they going to be able to do this? How the fuck are the people who live in a place that doesn't have sidewalks, doesn't have an easy way to walk to work, doesn't have a safe way to bike to work, how are they going to make ends meet when gas costs so much? It seems like the trajectory that we're on, we're just punishing the average everyday people like you and me. And it's like, I can't even indulge in hobbies anymore because things cost so much. Steel cased ammo is off the shelves. Gas is through the roof. If I wanted to have a family, no access to baby formula. It's just nuts. This world has gone nuts. And people are struggling out there. Well, I just wanted to get that off of my chest. I see a big construction vehicles going down the road. That's pretty funny. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen. I want to move out of Wyoming. I don't want to continue staying here. I would like to go to Idaho or Utah or Oregon or Alaska. Those last two are very expensive to live in, even though the wages are a bit higher to compensate. But I can't really do that. I can't really be Kino from Kino's Journey and live in every single place when baseline stability is so tenuous, when things are so unstable now these days. That's freedom I don't have. And really, that's what this is all about. They say we live in the freest nation on earth. But are you really that free when you have to go to a 9 to 5 all day to slave away for a minuscule wage that, can't even cover the basic necessities of living? I don't think you're free. I don't think you're free at all when that's what you're forced to do. You're especially not free when you can't even load your own firearm for self-defense purposes because all of the ammunition is gone. You're not free when you can't start a family and feed your own kids. You're not free when you can't even get from point A to point B because gas costs so much. This inflation, the more it increases, is only going to lead to more suicides increasing. And it's not okay. What's happening in this country today is not okay. But me talking about it's not going to change that. You talking about it's not going to change that. There's a bipartisan consensus, which is to screw you and I over time and time again. Nobody seems to genuinely want to put America first and to get us out of these wars and to put our taxpayer money to something useful, something that could help all of us. So, you know, despite our geographic advantage and relative isolation, they're gonna keep banging the war drum. It's for our national security that we get these Russians or whatever. Never mind the fact that they're way the fuck over there, and we both know that we got nukes pointed at one another, so it's never gonna come to that. Unless, maybe we escalate by giving weapons to another country that they're currently at war with. But, never mind that. Nuclear annihilation, not a big deal, right? I don't fucking know, man. I just want to be able to travel again. I want to be able to eventually leave Wyoming and not have to live here, go to a nicer, more civilized place. But not an option. In this economy, it is not an option.